Today we're testing the Dodge Viper, the legendary V10 powered American sports car that helped redefine the American automotive industry. Yes, you heard that right. We're putting this iconic machine through our toughest challenges to find out whether it can survive everything we throw at it. Make sure to stay until the end and don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Since the Dodge Viper is known for its power and performance, let's begin with the acceleration and braking tests, where expectations are naturally very high. I switched the car into sport mode and boom, the acceleration is absolutely incredible. As you can see, the Viper reaches 100 kilometers per hour in just 4 seconds. And the brakes, they're outstanding. In fact, these are some of the best brakes I've ever tested. The car comes to a complete stop in only 28 meters. So far, the Viper is off to an incredible start. Next up is the suspension test, which honestly isn't where you'd normally expect a sports car to shine. Surprisingly, on the cobblestone road, the Viper performs reasonably well. However, on the rough bump track, let's just say we'd rather not talk about it. Things improve once we move to urban speed bumps, where the car actually performs much better than expected. It handles them without any major issues, although the side skirt does scrape slightly on a few bumps. Nothing too serious. Now, with such a stiff suspension setup, what should we expect from the handling test? How fast do you think this car can complete the Moose test? To find out, I start at 60 kilometers per hour, and the Viper passes successfully. Then I increase the speed to 65 kilometers per hour, and once again, it manages to complete the test. However, there's one issue here. The car has a lot of oversteer. Because of that, when I raise the speed to 70 kilometers per hour, the Viper can no longer pass the test properly. In one attempt, it barely made it through after clipping a cone, but I'll leave the final judgment to you. Let me know in the comments whether 70 kilometers per hour should count or not. Now we arrive at the most exciting part of the video, the crash tests. We begin with the rollover test and roof strength test. First, we place the car under the crusher and apply maximum force to see how much pressure the roof pillars can withstand. The result is around 40,000 newtons. That's a decent number, but honestly, I expected more from a car like this. As you can see, part of the roof structure bends slightly under the load, which isn't ideal. Still, we can't judge a car's safety based on a single test, so let's move on. Next comes the rollover test. Just like with previous sports cars, getting the Viper onto the roll bar was a challenge, but eventually we got it into position and started the test. And wow, this turned out to be one of the best rollover tests I've ever performed. Just look at the violence of that impact. Despite the tremendous force involved, the passenger compartment remains remarkably intact. Even the roof pillars barely deform. That's extremely impressive. The doors also open normally afterward, which is a very important safety factor because it means occupants can exit the vehicle safely after a serious accident. After such a strong performance, it's time for the main crash tests. We start with the 50% frontal offset crash at 64 kilometers per hour. As you can see, the Viper performs exceptionally well. Yes, the A-pillar bends slightly, but that doesn't take away from the fact that the passenger compartment remains relatively well protected. Occupants would still be in a relatively safe environment. Next comes the full-width frontal crash test, and once again, the Viper delivers an outstanding result. I genuinely struggle to find any major weaknesses here. The only thing I would criticize is the lack of an airbag in this particular test model, although I'm absolutely certain the real car would have one installed. At this point, tell me in the comments, does the Dodge Viper deserve a 5-star safety rating? Now we move on to the head-on collision test, where two vehicles crash into each other at 65 kilometers per hour. Once again, the Viper performs very well. I really can't find any serious faults. The safety performance so far has been impressive, but what do you think? Is the Viper safer than the Koenigsegg Agera? If you haven't seen that video yet, I highly recommend checking it out afterward because that car also delivered some remarkable safety results. Next up is the rear-end collision test. Once again, the Dodge Viper performs well. The only reason the passenger dummy experiences such a violent movement is because the seatbelt wasn't properly applied to that occupant during the test. Aside from that, the vehicle handles the impact effectively. Now it's time for the side impact crash test, and this is where I want your opinion. Does the Dodge Viper deserve a 5-star safety rating? Can it adequately protect its occupants during a severe side collision? To help you judge more accurately, I'll switch the camera to the interior view so you can observe everything up close. Personally, I think the Viper performs very well here, but I wanted to make things even harder. So I took the same crash vehicle and modified it with a narrow pole-like impact surface to create a much more concentrated and violent side impact. Yes, you heard that right. This version of the test is significantly more brutal than the standard one. Yet even here, the Dodge Viper performs impressively. I honestly can't find any major weaknesses. But were those tests really difficult? In my opinion, not compared to what's coming next. Now we reach the truly terrifying challenge. A Volvo truck traveling at 45 kilometers crashes into the rear of the Dodge Viper. But that's not all. Directly in front of the Viper sits a trailer weighing approximately 12 tons. In other words, the Viper gets completely sandwiched between a truck and a massive trailer. As you can see, this is an absolutely brutal crash. The force involved is enormous, and here I really need your opinion. Do you think the Dodge Viper could still protect its occupants in such an extreme scenario? The roof structure clearly bends under the immense load, showing just how severe the impact was. To make things even more interesting, I position the car at a 50% offset behind the trailer and repeat the test. Surprisingly, this time the car seems to perform even better. The roof structure barely bends at all. That's fascinating because offset trailer impacts are usually more difficult than full-width ones. Yet somehow the Viper handles this situation better. Let me know in the comments why you think that happened. Finally, we arrive at the last test of the video, the pedestrian impact test. Yes, you heard that right. Here, the car strikes a pedestrian at 40 kilometers per hour. This is where I want your opinion again. Do you think the pedestrian would survive? How severe would the injuries be? Let me know in the comments below. Until the next video, goodbye.